And now, Michael, I turn it all over to you.
Morning. I'm going to start off with, as the image is kind of jumping the gun a little bit, but there is quite a history into the development of Lawrence, Massachusetts in general, not the hospital. Lawrence, Massachusetts was initially a planned industrial city brought about by the joining of purchased lands from adjoining towns and purchasing both sides of the Merrimack River within those boundaries by Daniel Saunders, and along with other capitalists and industrialists in the 1830s. By 1848, Lawrence had grown from a small number of farmers to a city with a population nearly 6,000. The types of industrial entities established was astounding. Paper-making machinery, railroad locomotive production, paper mills, cotton and woolen mills, leading to Lawrence leading the world in producing worsted wool cloth. This was not the only noted achievement Lawrence was becoming noted for, however. By 1910, the population had reached a staggering 85,862, with 42,526 people engaged in the manufacturing in the aforementioned mills, including the women and children. Immigrants from Ireland, Quebec, Syria, Italy, Portugal, Lithuania, Poland, Russia, Turkey, and elsewhere were now integrated into this New England city and was populated in chasing the American dream. Meanwhile, the workers were living in mill-owned tenement buildings, cramming 6 or more families in 3 to 4-story dwellings where trash and rubbish was stored under the stairwells. As a result, Lawrence was listed as one of the top 10 cities in America that led in the deaths of children under the ages of 1 and under the ages of 5, 2 separate categories for measuring deaths of children. Excuse me. On January 1st in 1912, Massachusetts passed a law that resulted in the cutting of the income of women and children working in the mills, leading to Polish and Lithuanian women stopping their looms on January 11th. The Everett cotton mills were the actual starting point of the Lawrence strike. They were striking against economic oppression that had become a way of life in this American nightmare of a dream. This action led to thousands of other mill workers in adjoining mills joining and initiating the strike on January 12, 1912. Winter soldiers all. So in the cold and snow in a New England winter, this nation was beginning to see and hear about the conditions under which the immigrants in Massachusetts were living. All right. Okay. The mill owners and political supporters of the mill owners had resorted to using violence wrought from hired strikebreakers and ordering militia and police personnel to break the strike, advocating, if we can't break the strike, then we'll break strikers' heads. Killing of the strikers was also on the table in order to, as a method to break the strike. On January 13, Joseph Ettor, excuse me, an IWW worker of the World Organizer, came to speak and help in organizing the strike, telling the strikers, quote, "To win, all workers need to do is to fold their arms and put their hands in their pockets, and this world will stop. With passive resistance and their refusing to move, they become more powerful than all the weapons the other side has for protection or for assault." Unlike the AFL, predominant union of the time, the IWW union organized workers regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, religion, language, or skill level. On January 29th, an early evening confrontation between militia forces and strikers resulted in the assumed striker, Annie Lopiso, being shot and killed by militia. However, surprise, surprise, two of the IWW organizers, Joseph Ettor and Arturo Giovannitti, along with Joseph Caruso, were arrested and jailed for her murder. They remained jailed until their acquittal and release from jail on November 26, 1912. In the ensuing weeks, the thousands of strikers endured further violent confrontations with militia and police, but through the IWW guidance informing the various committees needed to address the issues of living conditions, such as the children's exodus that was organized by supporters Elizabeth Gurley Flynn, an IWW organizer, Helen Keller, yes, that Helen Keller, she was a socialist, and Margaret Sanger, yes, that Margaret Sanger, who was an activist nurse that later established a clinic that would later become Planned Parenthood. The Children's Exodus, which was a program established by IWW experiences with strikes that they were shepherding in Europe, and having the population of the strikers made up of so many Europeans, felt that this was a winning strategy. But it was reading about the conditions of how this came about it's sickening. The Children's Exodus, starting February 10th, now this is a month after the strike was started, was a program, sending children of strikers to sympathetic families to care for them during these trying times. Margaret Sanger noted that the children were very much emaciated and showed the effects of malnutrition. Sound familiar? Hundreds of children ended up being sent to Philadelphia, New York, and Vermont. Meanwhile, the U.S. Congress was holding investigations into this strike in their attempt to resolve it. Testimonies from workers highlighted the horrible working and living conditions that workers and their families were subjected to. One worker was asked in Congress, quote, "Did he have to pay for drinking water, and of what quality was that water?" To which the teenager responded, "Yes, he had to pay 10 cents each week for drinking water, and the source of that water was open canal water that flowed near or alongside the mills. This is our American dream." Not. The strike ends on March 12th, 1912, with the workers winning. Eugene Debs, founder of the American Railway Union and four-time presidential candidate from the Socialist Party, said, "The victory at Lawrence is one of the most decisive and far-reaching victories ever won by organized workers that demonstrated the power and invincibility of the industrial unity backed with political solidarity. And yet, these very same antagonisms are very much a part of our daily lives today." In closing, I am sickened in my being aware of how ignorant, and violently brutal people are towards other people who want nothing more than to live a fulfilling, happy life in peace, as were the strikers of Lawrence and in the peoples of today who are facing growing racism towards them. Let me give you some shots here. The children had to fill out these tags. See, out of the hundreds of children, each had a tag indicating their parentage, and where they were going, and their contacts, where they ended up going, as part of Project Exodus. Again, it's too close. Yeah, they're at one of the train stations with their tags around them. And this, as we alluded to earlier, this was the emblem and the motto, if you will, of was a 2-3 month strike. Hearts starve as well as bodies, give us bread, but also give us roses, because we have lives of love that we need to nourish as well. Thank you. Thank you. Yep.